Well, the issue of where this virus has come from is now becoming increasingly political, not least because of the latest intervention by Donald Trump. Well, let's bring in Ros Atkins to look at this for us. Hi, Ros.
Hi, Lewis. Good to see you. Well, explaining how this virus started matters medically and politically. We know it began in Wuhan in China, but we don't know how. President Macron has said things happened there that we don't know about. And as Barbara's just been alluding to, the Trump administration is repeatedly turning to this, as you'll see in these clips, starting with a question from a Fox News correspondent.
Multiple sources are telling Fox News today that the United States government now has high confidence that while the coronavirus is a naturally occurring virus, it emanated from a virology lab in Wuhan, that because of lax safety protocols, an intern was infected, who later infected her boyfriend, and then went to the wet market in Wuhan, where it began to spread. Does that correspond with what you have heard from officials?
Well, I don't want to say that, John, but I will tell you more and more we're hearing the story.
We know that there is the Wuhan Institute of Virology just a handful of miles away from where the wet market was. There's still lots to learn. You should know that the United States government is working diligently to figure this out. But what we really need, Martha, we really need the Chinese government to open up.
Now, the lab in question is the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Here's a picture of it from a government website. And here's Xiaoyin Feng from BBC Chinese on the work that it does.
According to the Institute's website, its subjects of study include infectious diseases. It also houses Asia's first protection level 4 lab, which is the highest level of lab about viruses. There are also a handful of different super labs around the world which study the most dangerous viruses. And it's worth mentioning that such allegations are not new. Back in February, information was trending on Chinese social media that the first COVID-19 patient was a researcher working at the lab. But the Institute quickly denounced that rumor. It said that the researcher had left the lab a few years ago and no one working there was infected by COVID-19.
Well, today we've heard this from the Chinese government.
I'd like to remind you that WHO officials have repeatedly stated that there isn't any evidence that the new coronavirus was produced in a laboratory. Many well-known medical experts in the world also believe that the so-called laboratory leak hypothesis has no scientific basis.
Now, it's true that the World Health Organization says the source of this virus is unknown, and it says that all available evidence suggests it has a natural animal origin and is not a constructed virus. But what about claims it was an animal virus that was accidentally released from this lab? Well, that idea was given impetus by this Washington Post story this week. It reported that 2 years ago, US embassy officials visited the lab in Wuhan several times and sent 2 official warnings back to Washington about inadequate safety. But some have taken issue with this report. Jeremy Conindike led the US government's response to the Ebola outbreak in the 2010s. In this tweet, he argues, the point is that the biology shows a lot of remaining uncertainty and leaves open a range of plausible explanations that don't involve a lab spillover. And there is ample circumstantial evidence indicating a lab spillover is unlikely, albeit not impossible. And he used this meme to make his point. Now, how this virus started matters for how we stop the next pandemic. It also matters to US politics and to China's standing in the world, which is why today it's right at the centre of scientific research and an information war. And however long we wait for an explanation of how this outbreak began, inevitably the space that leaves will be filled with questions, speculation and theories, some without any facts to go with them. And there's much more on that Wuhan lab, Lewis, on the BBC website, bbc.com/news.